Okay, we're going to cover this ACT Reading Humanities passage. It's a dual passage, America, and the OK Chorale. So reading test, remember, it's the third test. Hopefully you've had a break. You have had a break. Hopefully you've had a snack and you're a little bit re-energized going to the test. Humanities would be the third passage if you're taking them in order, and Humanities falls kind of as inference side of the passages, right? It leans more this direction. My experience is the two middle passages, passages 2 and 3, are a little more challenging question-wise. You might be able to map this passage, maybe if that's a strategy you're working on, where you're just looking at topic sentences and target sentences. It's tougher on the inference leaning passages, but read and answer and Google summary and answer definitely works well. This particular passage, I'm just going through how where the questions are found as if I read and answered it, but Google summary would help. I will say on the dual passage, it's kind of a gift from the ACT because not every student is fast enough to finish. In fact, a lot of students are not fast enough, but many students might be able to get through 3 passages, right? Prose fiction, social science, humanities, and they get to skip one. Or some are fast enough for 2.5, or some are fast enough for 3.5. And so if you're only fast enough for, say, 2.5 passages, you save the dual passage for last and do part of it, right? Or if you're only fast for 3.5, save the dual passage for last and do part of it. But assuming you are going to complete the entire passage. You're going to complete passage A and then passage B, and then you're going to have questions about both passages. So treat it like it's 2 separate passages and then one about passages as a whole. So this is the text you should have in front of you. If you haven't already read it, maybe stop and do so, at least passage A, and then read passage B. So with passage A, questions 21 through 23 refer to passage A, so those are the ones we're going to start with. First question is 21. The information in lines 9 to 18 serves primarily to do what? So 9 to 18, we're right here, right? So, wrong spot, not 9 to 18. We are up a little bit. There we are, lines 9 to 18, just shifted my hand. So it talks about Oklahoma, sold to the United States, was open for settlement. It's mostly about the history of Oklahoma, and which one does that is choice D, that talks about the history. Number 22, based on the passage, the statement, there are no stars on stage, lines 22 to 23. So we find that here, right? There are no stars on stage. Smith raises the roof, not so much with the colorblind casting as by paying attention to how characters might have looked if they were actual Oklahomans in the period. So it's not F. It has nothing to do with the quality of the acting. The power of the production does not rely on celebrity status. That would be definitely what it is, right? Because it's not about the scenes that have small roles. It's not a poor matched script for some actors. So it's definitely choice G. The author of passage A's overall response to the performance of Oklahoma, that is the subject of his review, is, so we're going to find that down here at the end, and he talks about it, and he says, they were as moved as I was by the humility and hope. So he has a profound respect. He really appreciates the performance. Okay, now we're moving on to passage B questions, 24 to 27. So if you haven't read this, pause and read it first before going on. Question 24, the information between the dashes in lines 43 to 45. So right here, right? You see those dashes right there, and down. Where's the other one? There's the first one. There's the next one. Anyway, no opening ensemble number, chorus girls in long dresses, dancers who appear until late in the first act, the integrated score have lost some of the original luster. It's a little bit of a tricky question. It's not necessarily differences between 2 productions. It's going to be the elements of the original production they're talking about. And that was just tricky because it's not about shortcomings or differences. And you might be tempted to say it's favorite elements, but there's not anything there to support that. In fact, it says it's lost luster. So So far, I think it's the trickiest question we've had. The author of passage B would most likely agree with which of the following statements about noon, okay, or none, however you'd say his name. So his reputation as a mediocre director will be changed by his production. Well, it doesn't say he's a mediocre director. In fact, he calls him a 4-star general. So he has great respect for him as a director. It's just that he is a major figure, but he doesn't particularly like this particular performance. It's a flawed performance. So C. The reference to Utah in the discussion of the English version. So here's when they talk about Utah. All right, they say American optimism has its roots in abundance and the vastness of the land that Oklahoma celebrates. Britain, on the other hand, is the size of Utah. Its culture is one of scarcity. Its preferred idiom is irony. So it's talking about just how that Britain, compared to the United States in size, is small and therefore can't really capture the grandness of the original play. So G. To the author of passage B, the actor who plays Laurie represents, right? So we're going to talk about that actor in this paragraph, around line 70-ish, right? It's not talent that's an issue here. Gabrielle is the first Laurie to dance her own dream ballet, but national character. It's about Western women, and Laurie lacks that very American sense of gumption, right? So let's talk about why a British production can't capture the essence of a musical concerned with national character, right? Laurie doesn't have the gumption of that like American actor. And questions 28 to 30 refer to both passages, and these it's harder to refer directly to the text always because you're just keeping the idea straight of what you just read. A shared element of the two reviews is the assertion that casting can play a crucial role in determining the success. Maybe, but casting is positive in one, kind of negative in the other. Focus on theater professionals from overseas. Well, they're not both overseas. Eagerness to point out that the show succeeded in spite of disappointments. Well, one of them didn't say really succeeded. So the only one that's really true is going to be casting. So they talk about the casting here, which we read about, how the casting captured the true Oklahoma and the flawed casting of the other. So it's a crucial determination, so F. 29 is most reasonable to infer that the author of passage A and passage B would agree that for a director to reinterpret Oklahoma for today's audience is. Okay, so either courage, foolishness, arrogance, or respect. And both of these are about taking a leap, doing something different in the interpretation. So it's going to be courage in this particular one. And 30, unlike the last paragraph of passage B, the last paragraph of passage A does what? So it's really saying, what does the last paragraph of passage A do? In passage A, right, minimizes the director's role in the production. That doesn't happen. Passage A, we actually kind of already answered this when we had our questions earlier. They said, what was the response of the author? He conveys an appreciation for the director, right? Doesn't focus on the audience's reaction. They both do that, actually, both productions. And the passage A one is not disappointed. Passage B is disappointed. So these last three questions are more of just keeping straight in your mind what you've read. Okay, so you've got to figure out, you've got to practice these enough to figure out the strategy that works best for you, and also figure out if you can do the entire test or not. And if you can't, the DualPassage is a good opportunity to maybe cut to gain some time, and you'll be guessing on about half of this passage questions in. Let me know if